Welcome to the shop, fellow maker. Bill here today, and we are of course pressing forward on our Bender car build today. We're gonna make some progress on the body here. Mainly, I wanna fiberglass the inside of this thing so that the whole thing becomes a lot stronger. A couple weeks ago, I dropped this whole thing and it completely fell apart, even shattered on part of it. You can see I've come back in with a 3D printing pen to fill in these seams. So everything is stuck back together. But I want to prevent that from happening again, the cracking and falling apart. So this whole surface is going to get coated in fiberglass, but first I need to sand these seams down, and the whole interior needs a rough sanding so that our epoxy has something to grab onto. Okay, well that went pretty quick. I had a couple of good bits that I used. This one here I used to get rid of the seams from the 3D printing pen, and then this flappy 80 grit one here I used to rough up the entire inside of our body shell. Now I'm just going to clean the inside of this, get rid of all the dust. Got some isopropyl alcohol to just get rid of any grease so that this surface is nice and grippy for all of the epoxy we're going to put on here. For the fiberglassing, we're working with what we have. We've got a bunch of actual fiberglass cloth here, two different kinds in fact. This thin veil stuff and the more traditional woven fiberglass cloth. I think we're going to go with this thin veil stuff. It's really neat. It conforms to surfaces really well, and if you need a small piece, you can just pull a tiny little bit out to like tuck into a corner. It's also really thin and light. We don't want to add a lot of weight. For the resin or the epoxy, we're using EpoxAmite. Again, it's what we have, but this is also commonly used for fiberglassing. It's an epoxy, not a polyester resin, so it's less stinky, but we will still have the door cracked with a fan, and I'll be wearing a respirator. Just cutting off a couple of bigger pieces of this that we can work from. I've got my gloves on. Fiberglass can be itchy. Just trying to be as safe as possible. There you can just, Britt's gonna help me by ripping off small parts while I brush the epoxy on. Go team.
Yay!
And we'll probably do a couple of batches. This is a 22-minute pot life, but there's a lot in there and it might kick off a little sooner than that. Covering some holes. Here we go. All right, about halfway done. Mixing up batch number 2. Well, I'm not going to win any beauty awards for our fiberglass work, but it should make the body quite a bit stiffer. This just takes 10 to 15 hours to cure. While that's curing, I want to tinker with the lenses a little more. These are the rear headlights that we made last week. These are 3D printed. And we got some great feedback from you all about ideas to make these look better. And the best idea, I think, is to make this surface red, still transparent, but make it red instead of being perfectly clear. And I have just the thing for that. I could reprint the lenses with some red tint in the resin, and we might still do that. But for now, I've got this clear red paint from Tamiya, and we're gonna just airbrush a little bit of that on there. And hopefully that solves all our problems. This stuff looks delicious. Stay put, you. This way it'll be red even if the lights are off. And then it'll light up once we have the LED turn on. Those look nice. They look like lollipops. Just like the body and the fiberglass, we're gonna let this dry overnight. Today's a new day, everything's dry. I also added a clear coat over these to make them nice and glossy, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Let's see how the fiberglass turned out. Everything cured great, which is terrific news because that epoxy we use is like 7 years old. So happy that all still worked. It's a really thin layer of fiberglass, but it should provide some more support between all the seams. There is some stuff sticking out on the edges, so I just have to go around and trim and sand a little bit. Everything's looking good. It's still nice and fairly light, and it feels strong. I'm not gonna test it. I'm not gonna drop it again on purpose, but I'm feeling a lot better about the structural integrity. Like if this was driving and it bumped into something, it's not gonna fall apart at the seams. Of course, I still have a ton of finishing work to do on the outside. Maybe I'll tackle that next week. Right now, let's check in on those rear headlights and see if we can make them look really nice. Got our freshly painted lenses. We'll drop them in our little temporary setup here for the brake lights. And of course they'll go in there, but let's attach this LED first. Oops. Attach the LED and see how it looks. Turn it on. Okay. That looks all right. There is just one bright red spot in the middle, and there's stuff we can do to change that. But I also just think there isn't enough light, and I'm wondering if I put a white LED here instead of this red one, if we could get a little more oomph out of it. I printed a new cone. This will accept this larger white LED. Eventually we'll probably swap out the red ones, but let's just do a little test to see how much of a difference this makes with those red lenses. In here, very good. Stick the new lens on. The original one looks like that. And with this white LED, it looks like that. So it's definitely brighter. Again, I think we'll do something more to diffuse the light. This is a Plastizote foam. It does a great job of diffusing light. In fact, we can even like make it thinner if we need less diffusion. Oh. So you can see how that's how much it diffuses with the full thickness. A little less, more light comes through, but it's more of a pinpoint of light. So when you play with how much thickness you have, how far away the light is, you can control the end result. Will that fit in there? Let's trap our piece of foam in there for now. Put a little diffusion in there. Okay, not great. So the foam needs to be the full circle. You can totally see it through there. You know what? Something else someone suggested was putting chrome paint on the tip of the LED to bounce it back into this and then out. That's something we can try. We can also try sanding the tip of the LED to make it diffuse more from the source. Next thing to try is just chrome on the tip of this. My chrome paint here is glued shut. It's pretty old, but I had to cut it open, and I can get in there and get just the tiniest amount. And we're just going to brush it on the end of it here. And the idea being this is shiny enough that it will be shiny on the underside and send the light back. I think real car headlights do this. This was something that someone in the comments of the last video recommended, so I want to thank you all for participating. I appreciate the insight in this project. We are definitely swimming in uncharted waters right now. We got my paint on there. It's still wet, but let's see how well it works. There we go. Oh, that is surprisingly effective. That hot spot is mostly gone, and the light looks nice and evenly dispersed. That's pretty great.
Looks great.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That worked really well. I think I'm just wiping this off because this stuff takes forever to dry. I think I'll end up using a spray, like an airbrush chrome on there, because it'll dry faster and I can mask it off and make it look really nice. I do think I want to put a white LED on the back. I'll swap these red LEDs out for white LEDs. So let's do that next. Here is our red LED. Here's a white LED that I'm going to swap in. You can see there's a resistor right here, and I'm going to keep that in there for now and see if we probably need that. But everything on this side is going to get removed. Hang on to that in case we need to go back to it. I have some LEDs that I harvested from a flashlight, and I'm going to use them in this project. I have this cheat sheet that I keep around for LEDs specifically, so I know which side is positive, which side is negative, and so forth. That way I know which side of these to solder the black and which side to solder the red on. I have this new LED all connected here. Let's see how well it works. That works great. That looks like exactly what we're after. You can put this all together permanently. Zippity-doo. That can go away. Boop. All right, let's do that one more time. We'll have two white rear LEDs. Off with his head. I'm gonna airbrush some chrome paint on the tips of these, so I gotta mask off just the tip. Insert your Archer jokes here. Got some all-clad lacquers here for my chrome paint. Should be nice and shiny on there, and we need just like the tiniest amount. My favorite part about these paints is that they dry really fast. There we go. I had to do a couple of coats to fully cover it. I turned the lights on so I could see if any was leaking through, but it looks pretty good. Let's take this off here. Yeah, that's what we want right there. I should bounce everything back, spread the light out a bunch more. I let the paint dry on these, and now looking at my lenses also, these are glossy. I'm gonna have to spray some gloss on these clear ones up front. But anyway, the LEDs are good to go. I also printed these again, and I made the cone integral to the surround. So this is all just one piece now. Way easier to deal with, won't have to glue it or anything later. And now these parts slide in like that. This goes in just like that. If we turn it on, we get our light just like that. They're all looking pretty good. I think the last thing I want to do today is just to put these, especially these rear ones, put them in the car and see how they look. I'm so happy we put the white LEDs in there. That's just gonna go like that. And then that one goes in there with the lens. Oh, fell out. There, we got a couple of nice looking taillights.
That's so cool.
I love it. Oh, it looks great on camera too. I think that's gonna just about wrap it up for this one. That is awesome. I am so pleased that we've got to this point. I love iterating on a design, working through it, and of course getting feedback from you. So thank you for all of the comments. It's been incredibly helpful, and we're gonna keep pushing forward on this project. That is it from me today. Thanks again for hanging out with us in the shop. A special thanks goes out to the members of our Extra Credit Club. can join on YouTube memberships, or we also now have monthly over on Patreon. So you can join over there and get access to videos early. Thanks so much for the support. We couldn't do it without you. That's it for me today. Happy crafting.